What is up, you beautiful, happy hustlers out there? Kerry Jack here, and I hope that you are having an amazing day. I mean it, just enjoying this very moment. Now, in this episode of the Happy Hustle podcast, we have on Mr. Mike C-Roc, and he is the co-founder of Blueprinted. He's a best-selling author of Rocket Fuel, How to Convert Setbacks and Become Unstoppable, and the powerhouse behind What Are You Made Of podcast. He has been featured by Yahoo Finance as one of the top business leaders to follow in 2020 and is on a mission to help build people. He is driven to inspire others, and he measures his success on how he is able to help others achieve greatness. C-Roc had a fire lit in him at an early age, and that fire has ignited him with fierce desire to compel people to see the greatness inside themselves, using past life events to fuel their fire. We have an inspiring conversation. I know you guys are going to dig this one. And when you do, check him out online, CRoc.com. You could check out all his stuff there and his podcast. But you guys are going to dig this one. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode of the Happy Hustle podcast. And real quick, guys, I just want to give a huge shout out to this episode's sponsor, Nootopia, who is making my favorite nootropics on the market. These are brain optimizing supplements that really make a powerful difference in your workday. You guys get the hookup by going to nootopia.com/happy hustle. Save yourself some money, check out their different proprietary blends, and get that hookup, baby. All right, now let's get back to this episode. All right, C-Roc, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast, my man. I am super excited to connect.
Thanks, Kerry. Appreciate being here, man. Just always start every interview I do with gratitude to you, to the audience, for showing up, man. It means the world to me, and it's changed my life to be grateful for things. So just thank you.
Amen to that, brother. I love gratitude, and I, take a healthy dose every morning. So appreciate you, high vibrating at that frequency. Let's dive in. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're a best-selling author, you got a lot going on. And I'm curious to dive into all that, especially your new company, Blueprinted. But before we get into all that good stuff, what's something interesting about yourself, C-Roc, that not too many people know?
I think that probably would have to be that I'm very anxious and impatient. If I'm not getting results, I get really irritated. If I don't get production, I get really irritated. And I think that's my, one thing I really probably need to work on is not allow happiness to be determined by production, or results. And unfortunately, it's the way it is. And I don't know whether I should fight it or just lean into it, because that's the thing I stand against, is not getting results. And so I think that has a lot to do with the tech product Blueprint. And so, yeah, I think that's probably it.
Yeah. Hey, it's a good realization. I find a lot of driven entrepreneurs also struggle with that, where they're like, maybe we're hard on ourselves a lot of times, if we're not getting the result. But I will just let this be a little catalyst for you, where you can allow true happiness to come from within, and not your external circumstances or results, because that's where the magic happens. And then you put more love, you put more light into that work, and the results are even better when you do operate from that happy state. So, hey, for what it's worth, I wanted to expand upon it.
Yeah, no, always open, man. I'm radically open-minded too. That's another thing for people to understand. I mean, I don't tolerate things that go against my mission, my core values, but I'm radically open-minded otherwise.
Well, let's talk about your mission and core values. Give us a little backstory. Give us, a little insight into C-Roc and how'd you get into, this entrepreneur game?
Well, core values they're important to me. And I think it took me 40 some years to really figure out what my core values were. When you don't have core values and then state them and pay attention to them, you're operating off of someone else's values, or values that of standards that you've lowered. And my mission, same thing. I mean, if you're not on a mission and clearly defined mission, you don't have a filter inside of your system. So in other words, if you have an air conditioning system with no filter, it's going to mess up the machine. My mission acts as a filter for everything that I think, say, and do, and the people that I keep in my environment. And, what I've been clear on that which my mission is all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. And I filter everything through that. And my core values are basically an acronym. And the acronym is VITAL. And V is vibes matter. Emotions are contagious. So we pay attention to that. And obviously we just mentioned that and we talked about that.
Yeah.
I stands for, and remember, this is vital. The I stands for imagine, no lids, endless potential. And the T stands for take 100% responsibility, which is another thing in my life that's changed my life once I start doing that. The A is all setbacks are rocket fuel, meaning that you turn everything that comes your way into rocket fuel to become unstoppable. And finally, the L in vital stands for leadership starts with me. And I have a bunch of paragraphs underneath each one to explain that, my team operates on, I operate on, but those are the basics. And by operating that way, it allows me to make decisions, binary decisions. Either I'm going towards this or away from it. And it makes it very simple in your life to know where you got to go and keeping complication and confusion out, because nobody can be successful when they're confused. I probably didn't answer your question. You started off with that part and then you talked about the entrepreneur part. So
no, you did, man. And we can expand upon the entrepreneur part too, but just the core values. I love acronyms too. I have an acronym called soul mapping that defines my framework. But I love the vital acronym and the mission too. It's powerful. And, it's one of those things that is like your GPS, especially as an entrepreneur, but as a human, just making sure that you're operating in integrity with your true character and where you want to go. And I like that you use that as a filter to operate from. And I think all the happy hustlers out there listening can benefit from creating their own, core values and their own mission, and then even expand upon it, not just for your business, but for your family, and what does it mean for your family name and like operating with intention, not just kind of going through the motions, having that proactive thought. So I like that you went there early, man.
And by the way, with that, I mean, these are things that you should be non-negotiable with. So you really should have put them out there and put them in place if you're going to negotiate with them. Now, evolving, they could be a live organism and they could evolve over time. But you shouldn't negotiate when they're set at that time. If you negotiate with them, you really don't have core values and you're really not on a mission. So tolerance is an important thing to pay attention to, because the higher your tolerance is, the lower your performance and production will be, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. So let's go back a little bit to, your entrepreneurial journey a little bit and give us just a backstory, what did get you into the entrepreneur game?
Well, I started in sales in probably, I guess, late 90s, in-home sales, doing that and working for someone else. And then from there, I got into the real estate business, being a realtor and mortgage loan officer. And I started to realize, like, every time this happened over and over again in my life, like I'd get to a certain point in a position and I'd say, you know what, this game's not big enough for me. I need to go up. What's next? And so I continued to do that. And as I did that in the mortgage industry, I got, with my buddy, my best friend I get to work with every day, one of my best friends, Chris Short. I said, hey man, let's go out and start our own branches. Like, why are we working as a loan officer for someone when we can start our own branches, recruit, build a branch, build other branches, and build a division? And so that's kind of when we got started really in the entrepreneurial space, is that we started still working in the way the mortgage business works. You can have your own business underneath an umbrella because somebody's got to fund the loans and all that. So that's what we do now. And that's where it started. And then in 2017, I started getting this itch, like, man, I'm just playing too small of a game again. And I could still do this and have this set up, have it run like a machine with my touches to it every so often, and then go out and do other things and build other games to play. And so then that's when I got into podcasting, writing books, and speaking. And so that's how that got started.
Nice, man. And talk to us a little bit about Rocket Fuel. I mean, I love the name. Tell us about your book, Rocket Fuel, and kind of who's it for and what's it all about.
So the book is about stories from my life where I've used like things that most people would think are bad and converted them into rocket fuel. So you see, I started up as, growing up in a broken home. I don't remember my parents together. A lot of broken people around me, alcohol, drugs, mental issues, people that were overprescribed medicine, people that were taking and abusing medicine, conflict with my step parents, and when I was 8 years old, my mom decided to move on to her third marriage. And I didn't really want to move into another man's house and learn another man's rules at 8 years old. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give my dad's house a try. And he was moving on to his second marriage. And I figured that would be, an easier journey. Boy, was I wrong. For 3 years, from 8 to 11, I dealt with a lot of abuse. A lot of conflict was going on with my parents, my step parents. I didn't realize what, the story was, but it didn't matter. It was pouring down on us kids. And at night, at 9 years old, I remember at night sleeping with my baseball bat because of what I was seeing and hearing and the threats that I was feeling. So it wasn't the best environment to grow up in. However, we were taken care of in a way, money. My dad had money, he had a great business. But at some point, I realized that being in an abusive situation wasn't normal. I went to other people's houses to hang out with my friends and saw their families happy. And I'm like, this isn't what I want to live in. So I ended up sharing the story with my mom of what was going on. And she filed court papers to get me out of my dad's house back to her house. And I'm about 10 years old at this point. And so I didn't tell my dad, of course. And I waited for weeks to go by went by, and I waited for these court papers to be delivered. And when they finally were delivered, I came home from school one day, and man, you could feel the tension in the house. It was like thick, and my dad was my hero. He had his own masonry business, laid brick, block, concrete. Man, he had real big forearms and rough hands. If you shook his hand, you could tell how hard of a worker he was. Mm-hmm. And he's also Italian, and us Italians really don't carry wallets. We carry wads of money with rubber bands around it. And he used to always carry this wad of $100 bills around with him. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I thought, man, like I want that one day. And so when he came back, he sent me to my room that day, and I sat there waiting for him. He came back and he said, it says here you want to move back with your mom, but I can't figure it out because she doesn't have any money. You got money here. You got well taken care of. We go on trips. You got everything you need here. Why would you want to go there? And she's got men coming in and out of the house. Like, he painted this picture for me. But I remembered my mom. She told me at a young age that when you believe in something, you have to stick to your guns because people are going to try to talk you out of it when you have a belief. And they're going to be doing that because they have an agenda to achieve, or they might just be threatened by you doing well. And so stick to your guns. So I remembered that at that moment. I said, I'm not discussing this. I've made my mind up. And he said, okay, that's the case. And he took that wad of $100 bills out that I always looked up to him for, peeled one off, crumpled it up, and threw it at me. I said, here, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother then. And I'm sitting there as a 10-year-old kid, just like, I can't believe this just happened. What did I do? What did I just cause? But very quickly, Carrie, I'm a stubborn guy. Very quickly, I realized I'm not going to need that money. Like, I'll show you. And then for 30 some years, that spark that was lit right there, for 30 some years, I drove off of that. Like, I'm not going to let him win. School, sports, work, everything I did, man, I was going to be the best. I'm not going to let him win. Yeah. And about 3 years ago, we went through a situation in our business where we lost $1 million or so. Somebody did something they shouldn't have against us. And I let it happen in a way because I got to take responsibility for everything. Mm-hmm. And I was in a dark place, but I was realizing that all my life, no matter what happened, I always elevate. No matter what happens, good, bad, discouragement, people screwing you over, my own screw ups, I would always figure out a way to elevate. And I had to figure out, okay, I'm in a dark spot now. I need this. What is it? What is that formula? And what I realized was, and this is about the book Rocket Fuel, I realized that if you can proactively take everything that comes your way that would normally stop a normal human being down or slow them down or stop them, and instead of storing it in your trunk where most people keep it, where it weighs them down, you put it in your gas tank, your fuel tank, and convert it into rocket fuel, and you become unstoppable. And so I've been doing this my whole life, and I just realized it now. I put an actual story to it. And once I did that, and I was able to share that with people, I just became unstoppable. And I create unstoppable people, and that's what I wrote the book about. It's converting setbacks and becoming unstoppable. This book has been powerful to a lot of people. And I'm proud that I was able to do that. I never thought about really writing a book prior to doing that. And to have a book that's a best-selling book and to be in a position of that, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, man. And it's amazing, especially I know the labors that come with being an author, just as I'm finishing up my first book. So just kudos to you, man, for getting your story out there and helping a bunch of people with your message. And I mean, a couple of things I just want to extract, from your story. And we have somewhat of a similar upbringing. I had similar adversities in my life, and coming from a broken home and a lot of abuse and violence and drugs and illegal activity. I was going down the wrong path for a while. And, I had the opportunity, as did you, to use that as fuel and to take that adversity and allow it to strengthen me. And all the happy hustlers out there listening can take their adversities right now, and instead of putting it in the trunk, I like how you said that, you put it in the gas tank, man.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like that simple, that where does it get like stored in your memory bank? Where do you categorize it? That simple shift can make all the difference. It can fuel you to new heights, or it can weigh you down, and your trunk can be carrying a bunch of your self-limiting beliefs around, which I think a lot of people, really do struggle with. What would you say to someone who might be struggling with self-limiting beliefs right now, and how they can just use those adversities as rocket fuel?
So I'm a believer in God and an all-powerful God and a creator that put us here. And I don't think that God would put us here with limiting potential. I really feel that our potential is limitless. I've seen it before where a lady's picked up a car to save someone. And how could that happen if we're limited? We're only limited in our minds, and our minds are designed to keep us safe. Right.
Yep.
And so if we're left to our default positioning, at our own devices, our default positioning is surviving, just get by. And so that's where most of us are. So what we need to do is, and we don't need to understand, is we need to push the limits a little bit. So I always talk about thinking really big in your perfect ideal life. Not that you're going to ever get there, but why not strive for it? And thinking about beyond what you can even comprehend right now, because it's not really fair for yourself to set goals and targets for yourself that you think you can achieve, because it's way too low, because you have no idea what your potential is. So for me, what I tend to do is I will think really big, push something way out there, and just make sure that every thought, word, and action goes towards that direction. And I know that I'll be better off than if I would have set the goal where I thought I could achieve. Because most of the time, if you set something for what you think you can achieve, you're going to achieve it because you think you can achieve it. Right. So that's the biggest thing. And I think that other thing is, I'm coached. I'm very well coached. As I mentioned before, I'm radically open-minded, and I'm always searching. And my coach has really shared with me about these three keepers: ego, judgment, and fear. And these three keepers are named keepers because they're designed there to keep you safe. And then what we have to do is we have to become aware of those three and how they're affecting us and how they're limiting us, and get a hold of them. We don't want to get rid of them, because they do have some use, but we want to make sure that they're not overdoing it, working overtime, and doing things that are keeping us from accomplishing what we need to accomplish.
Yeah, man. Powerful stuff. And another just great point is getting help, like mentorship, coaching, having someone who is further in their journey than you are, and someone who you would actually trade places with. That's my rule with coaching, is if I wouldn't trade places with you, and not just with your business, but like your personal life and your family, and the holistic approach to your happiness has to be actual something that I would trade places with for me to take your advice.
Right.
That's kind of my rule with coaching. But just the fact that even you hear C-Roc out here, he's got a coach, he's got mentors in his life. He's always constantly learning. He has that mindset where he's evolving every single day and growing by absorbing knowledge. That's the happy hustle mindset to get you from wherever you are right now to wherever you want to go. So I love that you brought that up, man.
Yeah.
Now I do want to talk about Blueprinted, because I think it's a really unique idea. Give us a little insight as what the heck Blueprinted is, and who's it for, and how it can help.
Yeah. So my whole life, when I wanted something, I went and got it, but it took me a lot of time, money, stress, burned relationships, credibility, confidence, reputation, a lot of things, because I took longer than I should have, or I messed some things up on the way to my journey to my target. Right. And so I thought to myself, a lot of people need certainty, and they need to starve doubt. They need to remove doubt from their mind when they want to achieve something, and they'd have a happier life. They would save a lot of time, money, energy, all that stuff that we just talked about, stress and relationships. So what could we do to fix that? And so you just mentioned mentorship and coaching and what have you. But if somebody knows how to do something, they know the exact steps, they can reverse engineer what they did to get to somewhere, whether it's a business, a relationship, a podcast, a best-selling book, real estate hacks, any of that stuff. If they know that and they know how to do it, and they're just keeping it to themselves, and why other people are uncertain and doubt and going through all these different problems, I thought that was kind of selfish. So I figured out we would create a platform where people could provide the exact steps to achieve something. Now, the difference between this and a course platform or masterclass or whatever, those mostly are high theory, high level, just theory type training. And when most people are sitting there, they're in a class they can't do. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in class. I got a 4.0 in college and I dropped out because I didn't want to be in class anymore. I wanted to go create. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to go create, build, and learn as I was building and creating and knowing exactly what I was doing. So, and one other thing I thought about, like when I was younger, they had Legos and they came in a box with a picture on the box of what those Legos did, but they never had the directions back in the day like they do now. Now my kid gets a Lego box. It comes with this nice blueprint of exactly, just follow the steps and it tells you exactly what to do to get this Lego masterpiece. Well, that's what Blueprinted is. Blueprinted is a platform where there'll be a marketplace where people can go search for topics, industries, experts, what have you, and all the blueprints for those things they search will show up for sale. And people like yourself or myself can go in and create blueprints for people, like how to start a podcast. Like if I just all of a sudden had the idea, I want to do a podcast, I want somebody to provide me the blueprint and I'll buy it. And it tells me from step one all the way through repurposing and becoming omnipresent with your podcast, like all the steps, granular. And so that's what we created with Blueprinted. And Blueprinted is going to be an industry disruptor. And the problem is that most people are so stuck on courses, and there's so many course platforms out there, so many courses that don't even get completed. Maybe if people don't buy them, if people buy them, most of them don't get completed. So now you have people that are great marketers that are making money and they're not getting results for the people. Blueprinted will get results for people. And I stand firmly against not getting results.
Yeah, no, I think that is it's a problem in the course space. I don't even know what the stat would be, but I'm sure the majority of courses go unfinished, 80,
and that's 83 and change, 83%.
Okay. See, but that's the thing, man. It's like, I don't know about you, but I've got courses sitting on my server still that I was like, oh yeah, I'll buy that. And I didn't do anything with the information. So I really like the step-by-step tactical approach. And I'm big on reverse engineering my goals and looking at where I want to go, then breaking it down in tangible steps. I think that is how you achieve anything in your life. What would you say is like the key differentiating factor between a blueprint and a course? Like, what would that be?
Well, a course would be sitting there watching and observing and trying to learn while you're doing that. And a blueprint is actually doing and creating and learning while you're doing that.
So it's instead of like watching a video series on how to write your first book, this is actual tangible steps, and they don't move forward until they completed the step. Is that kind of how
exactly.
It works? It drips out.
Exactly. If you were baking a cake, and a real elaborate cake, would you do better baking that cake sitting on your couch watching TV, somebody else making a cake, or would you do better by somebody giving you the ingredients and the steps? That's the difference.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I personally, I think the steps are always going to, reign supreme when you get tactical, clear steps in anything. So what exactly would be, an example of a blueprint right now that you have is the platform live right now, or is it
no
beta?
No, it's not live right now. What we're doing is we're looking for our first 100 founding members, which we call, in our creators, we call them architects, to come in, and we're going to work with them to build their blueprint for them. And then from there, once they have their blueprint, and I'll give you some examples. There's one for relationships. There's a physical transformation coach, we have a couple of real estate people for real estate investing, house flipping, how to qualify your first real estate deal, starting and launching a podcast, how to become a best-selling author, how to create a 12-month marketing plan for your business, how to develop a great culture in your business. Man, I could go on and on. So we have a bunch already. We're going to fill it out to 100. And what we're going to do, Carrie, is we're going to actually market blueprinted through those first 100 founding members telling their story. We're going to share their story and what their blueprint's about. And that's how we're going to market the platform. And so that's what we're doing right now. While the app, the platform actually is being developed, it's almost done. They're just finishing up the user interface. But while they're doing that, we're building blueprints, man. We're already on track, and we're cash flowing already. And we have a specialist that works with those people. So if anybody listening has steps to achieve something, just go to blueprinted.com/VIP. It's spelled with 2 O's, BLOO, printed.com/VIP. And please sign up, join us. And we're going to be masterminding. We're going to be cross-pollinating in this community with people. And we're having an event in Miami in January with all the blueprint architects. We're going to have some fun with this, man. This is going to be not just business and make an impact, but we're going to build great relationships with it.
Nice, man. Love it. So once again, guys, if you want to check that out, you can go to BLOO printed.com/VIP and check it out there and learn more about it. Super interesting concept, guys. And I really like the step-by-step tactical approach. That's, how you actually achieve something is with clear directions and a tactical plan. So I like that, man.
And Carrie, what are, like, first of all, like this is going to separate the men from the boys and the ladies from the girls, because a lot of people can do a course and sit there and talk. When it comes down to creating steps. So in your line of work, you do a lot of things. I know that, but if you were to blueprint one thing, what's the first thing that came to your mind when you thought about blueprinting?
Well, honestly, man, you know what question I get asked all the time, and I already thought about this. I have a course on how to gain professional agency representation. I get asked that all the time. Carrie, how do you get into movies and modeling and acting? And, and I was like, well, you need to get professional representation, and here's how. And I have like a whole 6-module course, step by step, that I just, I created it a while back with my fiance, and it's very tactical, but it's, again, it leaves a lot of room for people to just watch and not do, which I think is the disconnect. So that was first that came to mind. Action,
baby. You got to, I'm not even saying action for the entertainment business. I'm just saying action is what's needed. And that's what this is about. So I love it, man.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I like to ask all my happy hustling guests a couple different questions in a couple different disciplines. And first, I like to talk about health. You can't be happy hustling in any capacity if you don't have your health on point. So I'm curious, what would you say is a happy hustle hack? This could be a tip, a tool, a tactic, something that you do to keep your health on point.
Well, I think the main thing for me is, I set goals and targets for myself, and I do it ahead of time to pull myself forward. So if I set something out there on the calendar and I set something up like a trainer, for example, I know I have to be there. It pulls me forward. But here's the hack. If you do things that you need to do when you don't want to do it, or you don't feel like doing it, or when it's hard, and you do that religiously, like I'm going to do it anyway, and you say that to yourself, do it anyway, you have 100% participation from yourself, because you're going to do it when it's easy. You're going to do it when you feel like it. And so that's what I focus my time and attention on. I focus on things like I'm totally transparent this week. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know what it was. It doesn't matter what it was. The story doesn't matter. I just didn't feel right this week. Not sick. I just didn't feel like the same old C-Roc. So you know what I do? I push and do what I'm supposed to do, and I do it harder than I usually do. And when I do that, then it gets the other times it comes easy. Man, I'm rolling. So that's my hack, is do it when you don't feel like it. Do it when it gets hard. Do it anyway.
Love it, man. Let's talk about money. I like to talk about money, and I think it's important to discuss, money openly. What would you say is a tip, a tool, a tactic, something that helps you save or invest or spend your money wisely, or maybe help to you accrue money? Something that you could share with the happy hustlers.
I think first and foremost, it's, the mission that I talked about before, like everything's got to go through your mission. And this includes your finances. where you spend your money, where you make your money, where you invest your money. It's got to go towards your mission. As soon as you get off track with your mission and you're out of alignment, you're going to have issues with your finances. But the other thing is to pay attention to them. You know, if you're not paying attention to your finances, paying attention to your bank accounts, paying attention to your investments, paying attention to your income, you're not going to get what you want. And so one of the things I do is I pay attention to my stuff, man. I'm focused on it. And the other thing I'll tell you is that I'm always thinking about what I want. Like I put my attention. So for example, and again, I'm transparent with everybody. I want to make $5.1 million a year. $5.1 million a year. I don't make $5.1 million yet, but I'm going to make $5.1 million a year. So I constantly say that to myself. I make $5.1 million a year. I make $5.1 million a year. And I do it every single day. And I learned that through Think and Grow Rich. And Bob Proctor talks about that a lot as well. But what you focus on in your mind and you bring it out into the real world and you start pretending that you already have it, you live that way, you think that way, you speak that way, it'll come to you. There's no doubt about it. And I've done it over and over again with different things. I remember I wrote down the number $500,000 back in 2011. What's that, 10 years ago? I wrote down I make $500,000 a year. Now at that position, that time, I couldn't even imagine that. I was probably making somewhere around $200 to $250 a year, right? And at a W-2 job. And I was saying, there's no way $500,000 to $600,000 a year. I think that's what I wrote, $500,000 to $600,000. I was like, I was just so limited, man. And so I wrote it down anyway, because I listened to someone that was mentoring me. I did it anyway. And then that year I made 600,000. So I've done it before and I'm like, well, okay, it works. Well, why not take it further? Why not think bigger? Why not see how far we can take this thing? Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. I like that, man. It is definitely, and I have similar, like I am confirmations and affirmations that I say every single day. There is a financial one that I say every single day. One important point too is you got to feel it. You know, you got to feel what it's like to be making that 5.1 mil every single year and what you're going to do with that money and like kind of visualize that reality. There's steps to it. It's not just speaking it, but there's also feeling it. And I know you do that too. And it's just important to, think about your finances too and focus on them. I like how you said that. Do you have like a monthly meeting or a quarterly meeting that you just review your finances in some type of frequency or?
No, because I have a software system that I put my stuff in. I create my own profile in there and I can look and see at any time what my net worth is. I can see anytime how much spending I'm spending on. I can see where the money's being spent. I know exactly where I am at all times with my net worth. I know exactly where, and I'm never satisfied. I'm happy, but I'm never satisfied. I'm like, this is like, and here's another thing, Carrie. One of the things that people do a lot of times is they think they know what they're doing in the vehicle that they're in to get to where they want to go. And a lot of times they're in the wrong vehicle. I'm not going to be able to make the money I want to make in the vehicle that I was in. Again, I'm transparent. I'll tell people, I was trying to do a coaching program and I had an easier time doing a coaching program where I charged $600 for a 6-week course, not a course, 6-week program where I would actually meet live with a group of people. And then that was easier than slinging the $97 like monthly group coaching course. Then I started thinking, okay, well, that's the case. Well, then I'm still too small. Then I started raising money for Blueprinted and I started raising money for the tech side of things that we're doing. And the conversations that I had to raise money, like millions, is even easier than the $97 one. So a lot of times people are just in the wrong vehicle. They're thinking too small, not just with the targets or the things that they want, but the vehicle that they need to be in to get there.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. You have to, and it has to be consistent where your goals are and the vehicle you're in to get you there. Like that, there can't be a massive chasm that you have to cross, or else you'll need to change vehicles. So yeah, that's a great point. Let's talk about spirituality. I'm a man of God as well, and I appreciate that. And just, I don't really care what the happy hustlers believe in, and I tell them this, but you just got to have faith in something, and I'm curious, do you have a happy hustle hack in regards to your spirituality?
Yeah. So I grew up a Christian and I believe in one God. I I believe in all powerful God. And I talk to God all the time. I talk to myself all the time too. By the way, I talk to myself because I want to be around someone all the time that thinks like me. So, and if you don't talk to
It's a
yourself,
natural choice.
yeah, you got to talk. If you don't talk to yourself, you got to start doing it, but make sure it's the, right mindset.
Positive self-talk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I believe in that, but also I believe in doing. So we have potential, to me, unlimited potential. So my job is every day to figure out how can I go towards my potential every day. And in doing that, it's also working on my mind, working on my brain, working on my knowledge, getting better, always learning, always being radically open-minded. And so a lot of people won't read other religions. They won't read other things as far as their mind because they're worried about what the pastor told them or this and that. I look and say, hey, listen, it's my job to figure out what's out there. It's my job to learn as much as possible and make myself the best person I could possibly be to make impact for people. So I study other things, and I come to realize that it's made me a better Christian. So, I don't know. I guess just the key to what I would say is have faith, but seek the truth, seek knowledge. Because if you just keep your mind closed to just what you're reading in just one chapter or something like that, you're going to limit yourself in what you can, actually achieve with your spirituality.
Yeah. Love it, man. That's a great point. Just drawing from other religions, other inspirational, enlightened teachers. I'm big on pulling from different disciplines in terms of spirituality. And, I think there's something to be learned from each,
Well, and in doing that, actually, like what I've noticed is that a lot of the religions are similar. A lot of the books are similar. They're talking about the same things. Even when you get into the self-help outside of religion, they're talking about the same things in different ways. And sometimes you read one book, and not even religion, but you just read one book, it's talking about a topic and you can't comprehend it because of the way they're delivering it. And then you get on this other book, they're talking about the same thing, but you absorbed it. Yep. So that's why I say it's made me a better Christian, because I've seen the same concepts in all these different things that I'm reading, and I could just understand it a little bit better here. Then I go back to the Bible and read it. When I read it from the Bible, it's like, oh, that's what they meant. Okay, I get it now.
Yep.
So I'll give you an example. So a lot of people think doing good and doing things that don't harm people and not withholding information from people that could hurt them, and they think that you're supposed to do that just to do it because that's good, right? Why are you supposed to do those things? Like, what's the real reason? And one of the real reasons is when you do things that you're not supposed to, that you wouldn't tell anybody that you're doing, or you withhold information from people that could help them or what have you, your subconscious mind builds up a case, like a crust that builds up in it. And then what happens is you lose your ability to analyze things. You lose your ability to be creative. You lose your ability to take action on things. And then what we talked about, those keepers before, judgment, fear, and ego, start to pull you back in to survive because you have all this junk in your subconscious mind because you're doing wrong. So when you're not performing like you're supposed to, and you do all the things you're supposed to do to perform, you think that, man, I'm doing everything I can. I don't know what's the problem. You need to really go back to check your ethics. You really need to go back and check the things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, because it's not about other people all the time. It's about what you're doing to your own mind. And that's something that I realized. And I didn't think that the Bible did a really good job for me. And this is my fault because it's my interpretation when I was reading the Bible, of really explaining why that's so important. Because, and again, you open this Pandora's box here for a second, but I got to talk about this. So when you think about something in the Bible, it talks about sin leads to death. And if you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus died on the cross to save you, to wash for your sins, to atone for your sins, so that you don't have to die. But the thing about it is that you have to ask for forgiveness still, even though you sin, right? Because we're all sinners. But the thing they didn't really explain to me, that to make me understand this, is why does sin lead towards death? Why is this punishment for sin death? And it's because that when you have all the stuff that you're doing wrong and it keeps into your mind and brain, then you don't extrovert and do things you're supposed to be doing. You introvert and you pull in, and that leads to death. Extroverting and connecting with people and talking to people and doing the things you're supposed to be doing with people, that leads towards survival and living. And so that was, to me, wasn't explained as good in the Bible as it was in other places for me to understand. And that's why it's made me a better Christian.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, man. I don't necessarily, I'm not a Christian per se. So I always was a little curious on that too. So thanks for explaining it. Even, a lot of the history there. I actually grew up, my dad's Catholic and my mom's Jewish. So I was like spiritual mutt.
Yep. Yeah.
But but it's interesting to hear. Last one. What is a happy hustle hack for relationships? Something maybe that you do with your family or, with your business partnership, something that you can share that's been effective in building loving relationships.
I think the first and foremost thing that I always go to is when I see something that I have an issue with or something's bothering me, I always look inside first. Like I look at me instead of going to them and complaining about something that they might be doing or what have you, or they're not doing this or whatever. I look and say, what am I doing to cause that? What effect am I having on that? And then from there, after I do that and I clear all that up, then I communicate. It's like communication is the cause of all problems and it's the solution of all problems. And so I always go to, okay, how can I communicate better? How can I build a communication line that is clear and effective with the person or people? And then from there, how can I get into agreement with them? Like, how can we get on the same page with things? And everything works when you communicate. Your agreement with people will elevate. It's amazing how that works, because when you're not in communication, your agreement will go down. And so if you're not communicating with someone, and like, for example, husbands and wives, if a husband's not communicating with his wife, then she's going to think in her mind, she's not in agreement with him. There's conflict, and she may go look elsewhere for that. Or she thinks the husband's going elsewhere for that, even though he may not be, but they're not in agreement because they're not communicating. And when you communicate and you get in agreement with each other, your love goes up. Yep. So it's a wild thing how though all three of those things are really affected by each other.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's true. Communication is key in business, in your personal life, in all relationships. You got to make sure. And I think assumptions too are like the killer of communication oftentimes, when people assume different things.
Well, you assume, but hold on a second though. This is important to understand. You assume things because you're out of agreement with that person. Yeah. And you're out of communication with that person. Exactly. So if you get into a communication and agreement with someone, they can't assume anything because the communication is clear. And so I always ask people, like, where are you out of communication with whatever you're having a problem with? Where's the conversation lacking? Where is there a conversation?
Yep. Yeah, it's a good point. Well, this has been awesome, C-Roc. I appreciate you, brother. I do want to ask you the rapid fire round questions, and then we will wrap this bad boy up.
Sounds good.
This is basically just where I ask you random questions. You answer honestly, first things that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right. Favorite movie? Go.
Goodfellas, I guess.
Favorite book?
There's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of them. Let's go with the 10X rule since it's sitting under my book. Right. Nice.
There. Favorite food?
Damn, dude, these questions are tough because I could eat a lot of things. Let's go with man. Let's just stick with French fries.
French fries, nice. What's your spirit animal?
Man,
what came to mind first?
The first thing that came to mind was a crocodile, but that's nice.
I like it. I like it, man. If you had a billboard for the world to see, and this was going to be your last piece of content, what's that billboard read?
Wow, that's a good one too. I think it would just say real big, be inexorable. Inexorable is my favorite word, by the way. That means unyielding and unable to be stopped.
Be, how do you spell it?
INEXORABLE. Inexorable.
Oh, nice. I like it. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I do have a superpower, by the way. So, but
if you could have a superpower,
I think we all have superpowers, but we just don't acknowledge them. So, well, I will tell you, my one superpower is connecting people for causing and creating a future for them. Because I have an ability to see what people are good at and what their visions are for the future and connecting them. So I think that's a superpower. But really, we were talking about like superheroes, right? So I think I would have to go with flying.
Nice. All right. And 3 things you're most grateful for right now.
My health, my family, and my radical open-mindedness into continuing to learn.
Love it, man. Crush that rapid fire round, C-Roc. Just want to take a moment, man, and acknowledge you. Appreciate you sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your adversity and your stories and your rocket fuel with the Happy Hustlers and myself, man. It's been a great convo, and I appreciate you, man. So
you're welcome. And thank you very much, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Any final words before I ask you the last question?
Yeah. The best thing I could tell people just as far as final words go is, man, look for help when you need it. Ask for help when you need it. Be willing to ask for help and give help. When you don't ask for help and you just try to do everything on your own, you're taking the ability of someone else that wants to help away from you, from them. So I'll leave that with you.
Yeah, I love it. And guys, go ahead and check out MikeCroc.com for all links to all the things we talked about, his book, his podcast, the What Are You Made Of podcast, the Blueprinted. You can link to that. That's on there as well. So check that out, guys. Now, final question, C-Roc. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Well, I think what I just said earlier probably is never being satisfied, but always being happy no matter the circumstance. And that's probably the best thing. And I think we all need to be reminded of that because we're human beings and there wouldn't be happiness without the opposite of happiness. So the key is probably to try to do it where you're happy the majority of the time.
Love it. Mike C-Roc, everyone. Thanks for watching and listening. We out. Peace and love.